स्वभावचिन्मयानन्दम् कृपापूर्णं जगत्पतिं हरिषड्वर्गजेतारं नित्यानन्दगुरुं भजे.
Today we will enter into the 55th Sutra. Shiva has spoken 112 meditation techniques. It is around 200 sutras. Today we are entering into the 55th Sutra, maybe 29th meditation technique. In that 112 meditation technique, 29th technique in the 200 Sutra, 55th Sutra. Every day we are working on one sutra and one meditation technique. Today we will be working on this sutra, this technique. Before entering into the technique, I will read the original words from Mahadeva, Shiva himself, in Sanskrit. Then we will see the translation. Then we will enter into the technique. We will enter into the understanding of the technique. Let me read the Sanskrit words from the Mahadeva, Shiva himself. Pinancha durbalam shaktim dhyatva dvadashagochare. Sanskrit is not just linguistic, it is phonetic also. Even the pronunciation plays a big role. It is not a linguistic. Sanskrit is not the language of prose. It is a language of poetry. That is why it is not used for ordinary purposes. This is the language used only for inner science. It is used to express the technology of the consciousness and used for worship. This is the language in which practically all the research and development about the inner consciousness happened. That is why even the pronunciation has got something great in this language. Sanskrit means highly, intensely developed, I can say nicely developed, cultured and developed. This language is cultured and developed by great enlightened masters. That is why even the sound, phonetic importance is something which we need to understand. Pinancha durbalam shaktim dhyatva dvadashagochare bhavishyat hridaye dhyayan mukta svadantriyam apnuyat. Let me read the literal translation. Having meditated on the gross and weak Shakti in the Dvadasha Indriyas, thus making it subtle, one who enters the heart space and attains mukti, becomes liberated, takes the jump into ultimate consciousness. This is a literal translation. There is a great commentator called Abhinava Gupta, who is called Bhashyakara of this book. In his commentary, he gives few tips for us to understand this technique. Here, if you read straight away only the sutra, you may not be able to get a complete view, an overall view. The commentator gives a few more tips to understand this technique in a very deeper way. Let me read the translation of the commentator's commentary, then we will enter into the sutra itself. Usually I straight away give only techniques. Nowadays I feel, let the original also be preserved, just to preserve these originals. Recently I started repeating even the original sutras and the commentaries also. Let the people understand the source, especially in the West. Slowly, people have forgotten the roots of the yoga, the source of the yoga. Nowadays I am listening many names like a super deluxe yoga. And what all yogas I am listening, I was shocked. I can never think all these names. All these names I don't know from where they originated. And so many names for yoga, but they forgot the roots of the yoga is in Yoga Sutras, a great book written by a father of yoga science. People who are teaching yoga for 10 years, even they don't know who is the father of yoga. If you ask them who is the father of yoga, I don't know, Swamiji. I learnt only from this person. They lost the roots. They lost from where it originates. For the sake of convenience and comforts, they took only the few portions. But when you lose the roots, the essence is lost. I always tell people, when somebody doesn't know Sanskrit, they cannot teach authentic yoga. Please don't think I am fanatic. I am not fanatic. I am not making any fanatic statement. But I tell you, when somebody doesn't know English, can he talk about Shakespeare? Can somebody understand Shakespeare without knowing English? No, never. Shakespeare has to be read in that language only. You cannot understand him by reading the translation. You may understand what he said, but not what he is. Understanding what he said is too superficial. You cannot have a complete view. Understanding what he is, only that can give a real vision. You need to understand the very roots of the culture from where the science originated. Only then you will be able to have the maximum benefit. That is why in India, teaching is always done orally. We call the ultimate teachings as Shruti. Shruti means heard. What is heard? Not read. Please be very clear. Not read. We have a beautiful word for ultimate teachings, the Vedas. Shruti means what is heard, not what is read or what is memorized. Memorized is Smriti. Memorized and remembered, recalled is Smriti. What is heard is Shruti. That's the ultimate teaching. Means we believe in teaching through the oral traditions. We believe in teaching, we believe in learning directly from the person who is living that culture, who is living that tradition, who is living in his life, not who learnt from books, not who learnt from videographs, not who learnt from some media, who learnt from the authentic source, from the oral traditions. That is why we always say the ultimate teachings as Shruti means which is heard. Understand, if at all you wanted to have the maximum benefit from the great truths and knowledge of Eastern culture, go into the roots of the culture. If you are learning yoga, are teaching yoga, learn little bit of Sanskrit. Learn to understand the meaning of the original words. You will see a totally different dimension, transformation, not only in your profession, even in your personality. The very word yoga is defined by the yoga master, the father of the yoga, yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. Yoga is cessation of mind, not directly connected to physical health or good looking. Please understand, yoga is reduced just for physical health or looking good. But the original root, the word itself means cessation of mind. Actually, when you go beyond mind, you will have the health and you will have something beyond beauty, what we call grace. Beyond beauty, grace, both will happen to you as a side effect, as a byproduct, when you understand what is really meant by the word yoga. Same way, if you go into the roots, only then you will understand what is exactly taught. Even if you miss one or two small things, you will miss the essence of the technique. The whole thing will be lost. One essence missing is enough to lose the whole truth. That is why I am taking you to the root from where the whole Jnana Ganga, or the river of wisdom, originates. Pinam chadurbalam shaktim dhyatva dvadashagochare pavishya hridaye dhyayan mukta svadantriyam apnuyat. Having meditated on the grass and weak Shakti in Dvadasha Indriyas, 12 Indriyas, thus making it subtle, one who enters the heart space and meditates there, attains mukti, becomes liberated and takes a quantum jump into ultimate consciousness. Let me read the translation of the commentary also, the Bhashya by Abhinava Gupta, a great saint, great enlightened master who lived around 10th century. Suppose you are gradually being deprived of strength or of knowledge. At the instant of deprivation, transcend, free yourself from anxiety and ultimately from the disease of bondage. Let's enter into the sutra and understand. I can say this aphorism is an important aphorism. If you understand this single sutra, you will understand the great difference, big difference between Western psychology and Vedic psychology. You will understand how the Western psychology is missing something essential. The essence of the Vedic psychology, the yogic psychology. According to the Vedic psychology, you are not disturbed, you are disturbance. Understand? You are not tensed, you are tension. There is a big difference. According to the Vedic psychology, you are not disturbed, you are disturbance. There is a big difference. Let us look deeply into it, then you will understand. You are not in tension, you are tension. There is a very big difference between you are disturbed and you are a disturbance. In the field of psychology, they go on giving you the hope. You can be corrected little bit, this side, that side, and you can come back to normalcy. They have a standard idea of normalcy, and anybody who is above or below is again and again trained or sometimes tortured. Yes, you see, training means going to psychiatric doctors. Torturing means in prisons. Both are two different methods to bring you back to normalcy. Understand the vision in a deeper way. If you are considered above or below the normalcy, you are either sent to psychiatric doctor or to prison, so that you can be brought to the level of so-called normalcy. Recently, the other day I was reading a journal, Scientific American Mind. There was a beautiful research, but too shocking. Scientists are now courageously coming out and saying, we cannot make man responsible for his actions unless we teach him how to balance the chemical reactions which is happening, the hormonal reactions, hormonal imbalances which is happening in his system. It's very shocking revelation. Scientists are going a step further and saying, our whole legal system around the world is designed based on one fact: man is responsible for his action. Now, when that fact itself is getting disproved, we need to do a big work on the whole legal system. It is like shaking the root of the legal system. But it is not said by a rishi or a mystic. If a rishi or a mystic or a religious person says, we will say, oh, forget about it. We will brush it aside. But a group of solid, authentic scientists who are doing research for many years, they are coming up and saying, we cannot make man responsible for his actions unless we teach him how to balance his emotions, or how to balance the hormonal changes, how to balance the chemical reactions happening in his being. What yoga is saying 5,000 years ago, the same thing the modern day scientists are saying. This sutra, this is the base. This sutra is a solution, an answer for this great problem, for this big problem. This sutra can bridge the gap between this Western psychology and Vedic psychology. According to Western psychology, they go on giving you the hope you can be brought back to normal, retaining you as you. Means something like, if you are feeling hot in this room, you can fix air conditioning and make it cool, start living. But they forget an important factor. The moment you bring air conditioning, now you need to maintain that. That brings its own tensions. That brings its own problems. Now you need electricity. You need to pay the bills. And for all these problems you need money. Then you go out to work, forget to enjoy this room. AC and the room both are lying. but you are again in the sky, working to pay the bill for the AC. We forget an important factor. You as you are is a disease. The concept of mind, according to the Western psychology, is a thing. According to the Vedic psychology, is a process. Mind is not a thing, it is a process. It is constantly happening. The word manas means a constant happening. Something is constantly happening. And moreover, the subject is a intense subject. Please understand, these words of Shiva, you don't even have to practice. The very understanding can transform you. The very understanding. You don't have to practice. If you practice, the transformation will be totally different. That is secondary. That's a straight way to enlightenment. That's secondary. But the very understanding can do a lot to you. Even a simple understanding can do a lot to you. That's the reason. That's why we say in Sanskrit, the first step for enlightenment is Shravana, right listening. Right listening and understanding. Shravana. Then Manana means contemplation or working with the truth internally. Internalizing the truth, Manana. Then Nididhyasana, living it, expressing it in the life. So the first step is Shravana, the right intense listening. That's the reason I insist on sharp listening. This one idea, according to the Western understanding, psychology, mind is a thing. You all believe unconsciously mind is a thing. That is why constantly you connect all the past happenings of your mind as a chain and start believing your mind is a solid thing. If I have to give an example, the low mood which you experienced 10 years ago, the low mood which you experienced 9 years ago, the low mood which you experienced 8 years ago, the low mood which you experienced 7 years ago, the low mood which you experienced yesterday are completely unconnected, independent incidents, different purpose, different reason, different situation. You would have experienced a low mood, but you connect all of them and say, my life itself is a depression. Understand? The low mood which you experienced years ago, months ago, weeks ago, days ago, are unconnected, independent incidents. 10 years ago, you would have felt low mood, you would have felt depressed because your toys are lost. 9 years ago, you would have felt depressed or low mood because your girlfriend is lost. Few years ago, you would have felt depressed or disturbed because your son is not listening to you. The reasons may be different. Situations are different. The cause is totally different. But when you connect all these low moods and decide, my life is a depression, what happens? You created hell for you. You created hell for you. Now, The moment you start believing your life was depressed, your life was depression, you will strongly believe your life will be depression. Please understand. Whatever you believe as your past, only that you will reproduce in your future. You all know you can't fly in the past. Will you believe tomorrow onwards you can start flying? No, you won't. What you think as your past, what you believed as your past, only that you will believe as your future. So once you start believing the past was filled with depression, now you created unconscious faith that your future also will be depression. Over, done. You destroyed your future. When you believe mind is a thing, according to Western psychology, you have created hell for you. You have no hope. Over. But mind is not a thing. God saves you. There is a hope. The truth is, mind is not a thing. As you are taught, mind is a process. It is not noun, it is a verb. Manas, the word mind, is a process. A constant happening is mind. It is not a thing. When you believe it is a thing, be very clear. You create the problems which does not exist. Which does not exist. You can see in your life why you were depressed 10 years ago and why you were depressed 9 years ago, why you were depressed 8 years ago, why you were depressed yesterday are different reason, different situation. But when you connect all those experience and decide I am depressed, now you are ready to get depressed tomorrow. You created enough of trouble for your life. You created an enemy who doesn't exist and start fighting with him. Now you have given life to an enemy who doesn't exist and start fighting with him. According to the psychology, mind is a thing. Please be very clear. Mind is not a thing. Small story. Guy goes to psychiatric doctor, says, doctor, my life is full of problems. Doctor says, everybody's life is a problem, don't worry. We will start working. Every week we will have 3 sessions. $100 you will be charged. Then the patient asks, doctor, this will solve your problem, but what about my problem? 3 sessions per week, $100 will solve your problem. What about my problem? Understand, the moment you start believing mind is a thing, you cannot be helped. No psychiatrist can help. No psychoanalysis can help. No other method can help. Because the basic belief is wrong. The moment you bring a wrong belief, whatever is built on that has to go wrong. It cannot be the truth. You need to understand the basic truth. You are not in tension, you are tension. You are not disturbed, you are disturbance. What you think as you is not a thing. What you think as your mind is a process. This is the major difference between the Western psychology and Vedic psychology. This is the root cause for all problems. This one idea, believing the identity which you project to the outer world, the identity which you believe as you, as a thing is the root cause for all your problems. The basic truth of the Vedic psychology is the identity which you project to the outer world and the identity which you project as you. You are beyond these two. You are not just these two. The identity which you project to the outer world is called ahankar. The identity which you believe as you is called mamakar. In Sanskrit we have two words, ahankar, mamakar. Again and again Vedic psychology says, you are beyond these two. You are not just these two. According to the Western psychology, you are these two. That is why so much of work is done to protect your identity. So much of attention and energy is given to hold on to your identity. When I say you are beyond these two identities, people get the shock because according to them their life is nothing but their identity. They can give up anything but not the identity. They can do anything to hold on to their identity. But when I say the identity which you are carrying is not the reality, the reality, the real you is something much more than these two identities. You are beyond these two identities. People get the shock. They are not able to digest. Not just Westerners, even the Easterners who had the Western education. Please be very clear. Just because you are born in India, never think you are an Easterner. Never think you are an Easterner. Same way, just because you are born in the West, never think you are a Westerner. People who work in the inner consciousness, who understand the logics of reality, who understand the truth, are Easterners. People who don't work on that, people who are working just on the outer world, even you are born in India, you are not an Easterner. I always tell people, we do so much to care about the hardware, we forget an important thing which is software. We forget your life is not just hardware. Your life is not related to software. Means the thing which you are carrying in you as you, or the idea, experience which you are having as you in you. The same machine, if the software is updated, the purpose, utility, everything becomes totally different. Same way, the body can be same. You need to update. You need to just update. Here is the latest research and development in the inner world, in the line of your inner software, from Mahadeva, from the first teacher, Shiva. Update yourself and understand the basic truth. You are not just the two identities, the identity which you project to the outer world and the identity which you project to the inner world. You are something more than that. You are not just thoughts. You are not just mind. You are not just the totality of your thoughts. You are something more than that. Above all, which you need to understand, your mind is not a thing. It is not connected as you think. Because you do not experience the gap between two thoughts, you start believing it is connected. Because you believe it is connected, you start believing it has got diseases. Because you start believing it has got diseases, you start going for the solutions. A small example. the depression which you had years ago, months ago, days ago, weeks ago, are unconnected, independent, unclutched experiences. When you connect all of them and see your mind as a whole, you created a shaft. You created a thought shaft, and you start believing now you have a big enemy in front of you. Now you will start fighting with that enemy. You will start trying to break that shaft. Sometimes you create even a positive shaft, so-called positive shaft. Means your life is nothing but a joy. Whenever you are in a high mood, you start creating a positive shaft. If you create a positive shaft, you will try to elongate it. You will try to hold on to that shaft. If you create a negative shaft, your life is a hell, you will try to break it as early as possible. But the big problem, you can neither elongate the shaft nor break the shaft because the shaft does not exist. You forget an important fact, that shaft doesn't exist. The shaft is just a process, not a thing. By and by, because you never experienced a space where thoughts are not existing, you started believing your life is totality of your thoughts. All your schools, colleges, universities taught you only to increase more and more number of thoughts. You are constantly taught to doubt everybody else except your mind. People come and ask me. They don't even ask, they just sit with their head. And what this guy is talking? What for he must be talking? What he wants to convey? Is he going to brainwash us? Is he going to convince me? People come with all ideas. Who is interested in washing your brain? And so much of dirt. I have enough of work. Nobody is interested. When you think yourself too much, actually whenever we think ourselves too much, we go on doubting everybody. But we forget an important thing of doubting what we think as we. Whenever people come to me with their great doubts and they think they are too much, actually it is nothing but they think they know everything. That is where the problem starts. At least if you know you don't know, at least you know you don't know. If you don't know that you don't know, you don't even know you don't know. They come to me and stand, and in a very judging way, I tell them, you don't need a separate hell. You don't need a separate punishment. Our people who are around me, they tell me, Swamiji, I think this guy is judging you. Why don't you tell him something? I said, no, why should we? There is no need. People who judge others forget an important thing. They go on doubting others, but they never learned to doubt themselves, what they think as they are. They never doubt. From the young age, you are taught only to think more and more thoughts, only to create more and more thoughts, and direct the doubt towards everybody. Raman Maharshi says beautifully, whoever goes to him and asks any question, he will just say one word. Who is that person who is questioning? Find out that. And he will put everybody to their place just by this one question. Ask the person who is questioning as who is the questioner. No answer. First find out that and come with your questions. We never question a person who is questioning us, who is creating questions in us. That is why we go on doubting everything and everybody. I always insist, try to question, try to doubt your very existence. about which you are never taught. Your schools, universities, colleges constantly are teaching you only to create more and more thoughts. They do not teach you the basic truth. Your mind is a process. It is not a thing. The moment you start thinking your mind is a thing, you start running for knowledge. That is why knowledge becomes wealth in the Western psychology, in the Western countries. Knowledge becomes wealth. The more thoughts you accumulate, the more thoughts you create, the more wealthy you become. But you forget an important thing. The more thoughts you create, more you are in tension. You are more disturbed. That is why wealth and tension both go hand in hand. Because both needs same basic qualities. If you have to be disturbed, you need to have more thoughts. If you need to become wealthy, you need to have more thoughts. You forget an important thing. You go on saying, I am disturbed, I am disturbed, I am tensed, I am tensed. No. You are not disturbed. You are a disturbance. You need to understand the basic root where the problem starts, where the problem is created. The first basic root is you believing you as a shaft or as a thing. You are not a thing. Because of that belief, your idea about pleasure, your idea about pain, your idea about life, everything is built on that one lie. You are a thing. If you understand this one truth, you are a process. By your very nature, you are unconnected, independent, unclutched thoughts. Now a big shock comes to you. If I am unclutched and independent thoughts, how can I run my life? A big question. Then what is my identity? How can I run my life? Vedic psychology comes with an answer. You do not need what you think as you to run your life. Please understand. You do not need what you think as you to run your life. It's a very bold statement. It's a very bold statement and very strong truth. It cannot be understood just by a normal person. You need to be little more attentive. Very bold statement. There is a beautiful statement by a rishi. Shrunmand vishve amritasya putraha vedaha meham purusham mahantam. He says, O sons of immortality, I have seen the truth. I am expressing it to you. Let you all realize it. He is not addressing, O sinners. No. Vedic religion doesn't have the concept of sin. He says, Shrunmand vishve amritasya putraha, sons of immortality. Tomorrow, I have a deadline, project plan, so many things. How will I work? How will I submit my projects? How will I run my day-to-day life? It's a big question. Understand a basic thing. This one example. When you are driving, do you plan every step? How much you need to press the accelerator? When you need to press the brake? When you need to turn? When you need to turn right, turn left? Do you plan? No. In the initial level, when you get trained, you may plan. But once you learn driving, just you sit. Many times, you don't even remember. When you get into the car, the next thought will be, when you get down, in your office. Am I right? You don't even remember you are driving. Either you are listening to the music, or talking in cell phone, or eating in the West especially. That is the restaurant. That is the restaurant, that is the STD booth, that is the music bar, everything. Everything is going on. Sometimes all three goes on. And you are driving. Only when you park in front of your office, suddenly you remember, you finished your driving. You finished your journey. How is this happening? This is what we call prarabdha, bio-memory. You have an intelligence, an automatic intelligence to run, to maintain, to live and expand your life. Please understand, what I am speaking is a very basic truth. Only if you have suffered in your life enough by your mind, you can understand what I am saying. Only if you have come to the verge of suspecting your own identity, you can understand. If you are still suspecting me about my identity, you cannot understand. Then forget about all these things, relax, go and enjoy outside the cool breeze. Many people, I always tell people ask me, Swamiji, why do you insist on doing first level program before they come to your program? I tell them so that their basic FAQs, frequently asked questions, will be answered. Otherwise they will be sitting and wasting my time just in the FAQs. These people, they come and ask, oh, you are so young, how did you learn so much? Oh, from where, who is your guru? From where are you coming? I don't have to waste my time answering all these small FAQs. That's why I insist on first level program. People who are still disturbed by FAQs, who are still doubting about my identity, cannot understand this truth. They will be sitting with their questions. If you are sitting with your questions, don't waste your time here. Better do LBP and come. If you are ready to doubt your identity, only then you will be able to understand what I am speaking, what I am expressing. Understand, the identity which you are carrying, or what you think as you, what you possess or believe will protect you in your life, is not necessary to live your life. In Sanskrit we have a beautiful word, prarabdha karma. Means the intelligence or the energy based on which you created this body. What we call bio-memory. You designed your body when you took birth. You designed your body to enjoy particular enjoyments, to live for a particular number of years. Your life, your enjoyments, whatever you want to do, you decide when you take birth, based on your prarabdha, based on what you think as the juice of the life. If you think only eating is the life, you will take pig janma. Pig body is the right body, because pig doesn't have to go for a job. Whole day you can eat. If you think the best thing in the life is sleeping, naturally you will create a buffalo body. Because buffaloes doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to waste 10 years of his life by going to school. He doesn't have to waste 1/3 of his life by working in the office. So many things he doesn't have to do. All he needs to do is just chew and lie down. What you believe as the essence of life, what you believe is the greatest joy of the life, based on that you design your body. You design your system. That's what we call prarabdha. You came with a prarabdha. You decided, you designed your system. That designing, that memory has got enough of intelligence to live, run and expand your life. Trusting that intelligence and relaxing is what I call devotion, bhakti, sharanagati. Understand? The intelligence which is living in your life, which is running your life, trusting that and relaxing is what I call sharanagati, surrender. In our life, we are neither taught nor allowed to have the confidence you have an intelligence in you. Always you are given only guilt. Only if you live with the guilt you can be easily exploited. The society which is created based on power and politics, the social systems which is created by Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, means business people and politicians, naturally will have techniques only to keep people in guilt. But the social system created by rishis, enlightened masters, Vedic seers, that system naturally helps people to liberate people towards more and more expression of freedom, more and more towards the freedom. Understand the big difference. The society created by Vedic system are the rishis, enlightened masters, and the social structure created by politicians and businessmen. There is a big difference between these two systems. Be very clear. If your body is an income source for somebody, naturally you will invent more and more diseases and medicines. Am I right? Because it is an income source. Understand? If your body is an income source for somebody, naturally he will be happy when you fall sick. What he will be praying? For example, you and your doctor, both of you come here and both of you pray to God. What you will be praying? You will pray for your business and he will pray for his business. Be very clear. Naturally, each one has to bother about their survival, bother about their life and their expansion. The lifestyle of the East, the Vedic system, the yogic lifestyle is created by enlightened masters. That is why constantly they give you the confidence. Even when you fail, they say, no, don't worry. Just because you committed a sin, you are not a sinner. Committing a sin is different, being a sinner is different. There is no word sinner used to address people in Vedic system. No. They address human beings as Amritasya Putraha, means sons of immortality. Let you understand and trust. Please be very clear. There are so many things, all major things of your life is not done by the identity which you are carrying, including your breathing. Are you breathing by planning? In that case, when you are sleeping, when your identity is not there, the deep sleep, who is breathing? All major things of your life is run by your prarabdha, run by your biointelligence, run by the automatic intelligence which keeps you alive. If so much can be done by that intelligence, can't it run your life? Digesting your food, converting bread into blood is such a big work. If that can be done by your intelligence, can't it just find way for your bread? It can. But you are taught not to trust your intelligence. You are constantly trained not to trust yourself. By now, You yourself believe you can run only based on fear and greed. You do not trust yourself, you can run out of freedom. You do not have faith on you, you can live out of freedom. You strongly believe you can run only based on fear and greed. You can run only based on your deadline and salary. You think life is a deadline and paycheck. No. You can run. Your life can happen. What you think without what you think as your identity. Be very clear. You can live your life without the constant irritation which you are carrying, the constant tension which you are carrying. That is what I call Jivan Mukti, liberated while living in the body. Jivan Mukta means a man who lives without carrying the constant irritation which all of us carry. Constant irritation, you can understand. The moment you get out from your bed, come out of your sleep, till you fall asleep, you carry a constant tension and irritation. That is so you are waiting to vomit that on others. You are practically a volcano, waiting to jump on people. All you need is a small reason, that's all. You are waiting for reasons. If you don't get, you create it, that's all. Constantly, you are waiting to vomit. The constant irritation which you are carrying, the tension which you are carrying is happening in you because you believe mind is a thing. If you believe mind is a being, it is not a thing, it is a process. Then suddenly you will see that there is no need for the so much of things which you are creating in you. There is no need to defend yourself so much because there is no enemy. Suddenly you will realize, whoever you think as enemy has no base. They are not enemies at all. When you create an enemy who doesn't exist and start fighting with him, naturally you create more and more suffering for you, more and more pain for you. Be very clear. When you understand mind is a process, suddenly you realize you are unclutched. When you start trusting, you can be alive without that constant tension and disturbance which you are carrying in you. You are Jivan Mukta.